Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be giving you a really useful tip to be able to get more grittier bass sounds using an unconventional kind of plugin for that task, I think, because we're using it in a very unique way. Now this is using Soothe 2, as you can tell by the title. Now if you don't know about Soothe, it is a dynamic resonance suppressor. Basically what it does is you throw it on a very harsh sound, and it will get rid of any of those frequencies that are like really painful to your ears, for example. So you'd think it would be like less of this effect and just more of like soothing out a sound. But I have a different way of going about using it that actually allows you to get like more dirt and grit on your very heavy bass sounds. So this is a really cool method. I hope this does help you out. And starting it off, I'm going to demonstrate the sound that we have here so you can get a feel for what we're working with. Just a little bit of this drop here. So that's what we're working with, and you can see this is like one of those crazy like lead and bass kind of together poly bass type sounds. And I'm going to show you what I did to this in processing and the difference it does make just using two different things, being Soothe and an EQ. So first off, we're going to just play our lead, no drums or anything. I have to unmute a whole bunch of automations though, otherwise it's going to sound really terrible. So let's do that. Just get all of them to be safe because I don't know what's what anymore. I don't label things. So on its own, sounds like this. Okay, so you can see my effects chain here. We have a ton of different things, reverb, there's the two plugins, and this is the trick I'm talking about here, so Soothe and this EQ. And then it's just some other stuff like saturation, dimension expander, compression, all that good stuff. So what I actually did, and we're going to take this off so you could hear it before and after. So without this trick I'm going to be teaching you in this video, it sounds like this. And then on. So I'm going to like do that really quickly without even talking, just so you could hear it. It's going to go off, on, off, on. You can see it just makes it sound a little bit like deeper because it's getting rid of some of that harsh mid-range, but in a way where that's actually also being boosted back in, but in a more naturally occurring way rather than how it is initially in the sound. So enough explanation, let's go into actually opening it up so you can see exactly what's happening. The first thing we have here is Soothe. Now I turned the sharpness up almost all the way, and I was just playing with the depth knob to get it to remove a lot of that mid-range. We're actually going to get rid of this EQ, and you'll see why in a second. But if we look at what that's doing, you see a lot of it's being removed, and that sounds like this. So that's like a really gross tone, that's what it's removing. But what I actually did, typically the way you use Soothe is you do this like in moderation a little bit and then just kind of leave it. I did it purposely way too much, so that way it's really taking that out and it doesn't really sound good anymore. And the reason I did that, because after this EQ, I'm boosting the area that it's cutting back into the sound. But what happens when you do this, you get a much different tone than if you were to just not do this at all. It kind of removes anything harsh, and then you're just boosting that whole area back up naturally without the harshness, but like the frequency region is still there, which is really, really useful. So you can see if we don't do it at all, sounds like this. If we just have Soothe, too much of it's gone, and then we're boosting it back in with that EQ. Just a little bit. You see it's only going up to like maybe 5 dB, 4 actually. That's kind of our peak. That's about as much as we're boosting. And then I do have these dynamic ones here, just to get rid of specific areas in this specific sound that were just too harsh. And you can see this little thing makes a very big difference. It's super important to do this, because if you were to not add that boost with the EQ, you're just getting rid of very important like mid regions of your sound. And of course, if you don't do the Soothe, it's just going to exist how it naturally was, which might be fine in a lot of cases, but in this one, because it's a very digital, aggressive, distorted sound, it did not sound good. It was something we needed to change. And then to add even more grit, you know, I just have a typical Saturn II thing going on here, where I'm tastefully saturating the sub-bass region, getting rid of that mud between like 1 and 300, and then saturating our fundamental and everything else all the way up to the top to make it sound really good. I'll compare it with and without Saturn as well. Really just polishes it up in a way that's really nice. So if we take off all three of those, so the Soothe, the EQ Boost, and the Saturn, suddenly it almost sounds kind of clean, but like in a weird way. Like it still has that distorted bit, but it's too clean and loses that grit. So throw that on. It's actually kind of like over here where we're boosting these two sounds together with Saturn initially. That's where all of the initial grit comes from, but it's a really interesting way to set up sounds, and this just helps you to get things a lot grittier. This will work really well in like dubstep and stuff too if you have a really cool bass. Probably try this technique there and see if it just brings up that region naturally after you've cut it with Soothe without sounding harsh anymore. It's super useful because I know in a lot of mixdowns like this, you're trying to get really loud, and if you have frequencies that are painful, it's not going to sound good when you have it really loud, but this will help with that and give you a different tone to mess with as well. I hope this has helped you out. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to drop a like on it and subscribe for more future content, and I'll see you guys in the next one.